If you've seen some guys with bowls of water or alcohol sitting next to their car during your Losi Nascar races, chances are they're probably doing this speed secret, and that is cleaning out their brushed motors. So you can actually break in your motors, you can clean them, all that kind of stuff. And some people swear by it, some people really don't care. I'm kind of one of those guys that's going to say, don't go super crazy with this. It's easy to do. It's, takes a few minutes, and, the results could help you out. So I'm Chad. This is the Dorky 40 RC channel. Let's go ahead and clean out our motor today. It'd be a pretty good example. This thing should be very dirty. Now, what you're going to want, of course, is a bowl of clean water. People say distilled. I have RO water, works fine. Of course, you're going to need your car and everything else. Now, I have the spare ESC here that I could always just kind of wire up and dangle over the side, all that kind of good stuff. Take your whole top brace off, get your motor out and everything. You're going to want some electronic cleaner or something of this nature to spray the motor after you clean it to prevent rust. And then you're going to want some kind of bearing oil at the end. And what I usually like to do is put a little bit of bearing oil on there and then a small dab of something thicker to kind of hold that oil in. Again, all of this is pretty much debatable. Everybody kind of has their own method. And some people that I see online that are selling these motors are selling them pre-broken in. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. No reason to say that they are not. And the most important thing is you don't want to run this thing at like full speed. So you just want to kind of get it cleaned out and get everything swirling around really good. So with the Losi Nascar here, we got to do a couple things. Go ahead and take your pinion off. And these stock pinions are pretty good and thread locked on there. So you might have to maybe heat that end of that up, but be very careful because you don't want to ruin your motor guard. And mine is definitely on there pretty tight. I'm guessing that there's just, this needs clean. There's probably a lot of like tire prep buildup and all of that good stuff on here. Take your motor mount off so it's not in your way. And oh, there we go. Got the pinion off. So then there's a couple different ways that we can go about this. We can bring our water right up next to the car here and just kind of set it right there and make sure the entire motor is submerged. You want it clean down in there, but try not to get your wires down in there and stuff. And then probably the best thing to do would be to take some kind of clamp or something to like clamp it to the side, because it is going to move on you even if it's hanging like it is right now. All right, that should work out pretty good right there. And going to need your remote. Go ahead and turn your remote on. And then going to need a battery. Go ahead and plug your battery in. And then, of course, we're going to turn on the car. So what you want to do is just take your throttle trim that you have and set it to like 50%. So the little switch there on the back. And we don't have like a dial that we can just do. So we kind of have to do this manually. So basically we're just going to sit here and hold this for a couple minutes. Well, some people have power supplies and they maintain a certain voltage and an amperage and they watch the voltage rise. So basically you should get more volts at the same amp load that you're putting on the motor when you're breaking things in and cleaning them up. It's pretty advanced for a lot of people. So I say, don't even worry about it. And this motor's been ran pretty good, and you can see that the water is still fairly clean, which is kind of surprising. I was expecting it to be a lot dirtier. Probably the most important thing you can do is just basically make sure your brushes are always oiled. So if you pull your motor out between, you know, race events and stuff like that, put a little oil like we talked about on the end of the bells, and you know, it's pretty good. So you can see the water actually isn't as bad as I thought. There's a couple big black chunks that came out of it, no big deal. So we took it outside and we sprayed everything as air dried as we could with the air compressor. You could also use canned air if you wanted to. And then what I did is follow up with the cleaner, and you know, you just kind of want to spray it into the holes on the commutator and stuff like that. You'll have them on couple sides, really doesn't matter, just spray it wherever you feel comfortable with. And then you want to blow that out again with the canned air or the compressor until everything is nearly dry, and then come back in and you will see that there's a little rings on the bottom and on the top there where everything kind of seats in. And I took a couple drops of the bearing oil and stuck that on there. And then what I'll do is just take a little bit more of the thicker oil and just a blob like that. I think you could see that just came out. And then do the same thing right here. Just a little bit. And then if we remember which way the direction was with everything was turning to the right. So just want to spin it, you know, a little bit to work that stuff in. And it, you know, it's already kind of leaking on my hand. So hold it upside down, hold it right side up. And you know, your motor, definitely the motor should feel a little bit smoother. I mean, I think it does. Is it gonna be the end all be all to make me win? Doubt it, but at least we know we have a super clean motor. So when it comes to putting everything together, rinse and repeat, go to the track, run a few laps that are nice and slow to kind of work everything back in. And then don't forget to flip the switch on your radio back to 100%. When you're putting your motor mount back into, make sure that everything is nice and straight. It's pretty tight when it gets in there. And also double check your gear mesh. Make sure that there's a little bit of rocking between the gears in there after taking off the motor mount, because that is a common complaint that I have seen on the interwebs about some of these, is that they have really tight mesh. So mine seems pretty good. And then plug your motors back, and then plug your motor wires back in correctly, of course. And if you want to, give it a little test, make sure everything works well. And then probably the most important thing is to make sure that you get everything, as far as the rack goes, reinstalled properly. Definitely want to start here in the back and make sure that that is all lined up with your motor mount. And then I have gotten into the habit of just leaning the car back and just kind of pinching the pins and holding those in place back in the back. Got to make sure that they don't come out of the bottom locating holes. And then once you're satisfied with that, just kind of press up from the bottom there to hold them in place very lightly. Then, because you know how we all are freaky about our steering because of everything, turn that back on and make sure that we got appropriate steering and everything looks very good and in control. And I have my trim just, you know, a little bit set up for oval, just a little bit of trim to the left. So I am happy, and hopefully you are too. Definitely don't worry about doing this. Anybody can do this and handle it. Just take your time. If you don't feel comfortable doing it here inside this close to the car, pull the ESC out. You can make some longer lead wires. There's a lot of different things that you can do to make yourself a setup. Go buy another ESC, get a bind plug, stick it in there, have it always ready to go. That way you can pull the motor out at the track, have a couple motors. They're like $15 a piece. Have them all ready to go. Do some testing, find out which one's that hot motor, you know, that one that you need to bring home the bacon. I'm going to put this thing back together. We will see you guys in the next video. Peace.